It's 9:30 in the morning and I couldn't sleep because my nose was cold. But this makes life a bit easier.
Toasted.
So obviously you'll need a Raspberry Pi. This is the one I bought, the Raspberry Pi 0WH, W meaning that it has Wi-Fi built in, and H means it has a pre-soldered head. The pins come already installed. You can buy a cheaper version that doesn't have the pins installed, and you can buy an even cheaper version that doesn't have wireless, but this is the one I went for at £12.80. I also bought these wires, these premium female to male extension jump wires, 20 pack of 6-inch wires for £2, which is very handy. Breadboard, very important. It's a half size one, but that's more than plentiful for this project. It's £3. I bought a 25 pack of 220 ohm resistors, which you need to get these next things to work, which are the ultra bright LED bulbs, diodes, for £1.50. Also, further to this project, I bought a little push button for £1, a 40-pin GPIO shrouded box header. I'm not going to use this or the button at the moment, but for the idea I have in mind for this particular Pi, having the pins sticking straight up is going to be a bit of an issue. So I bought this and I'm going to eventually remove the original pins from my Raspberry Pi and install these instead so that all the cables come out the side to save space. £27.37.
Just pop up in your browser and go to raspberrypi.org/downloads/. Then at the top here you should have Raspberry Pi Imager for various systems. Obviously I'm on Windows, so I click the Windows one. You download that and you'll be given an imager, which you install as you normally would. You just open it from your downloads, and once that's running and you run it, you'll be greeted with this. Now choose your operating system. I've gone for the standard 32-bit Raspberry Pi OS here. There are other things here you can do. What's very important is that you have an empty SD card. You erase it and then you format the card as FAT32, which you see down here. That's possibly the most important thing you can do here. So erase the card and format it. Then choose your operating system, choose your SD card and click Write. Now the SD card reader on my desktop doesn't work, so I actually used a different machine for this, so I can't give you an example right now, but it's very simple. And once you've done that, just plug it into your Raspberry Pi and it will work as it should. And then you just plug in the power, plug in your keyboard and mouse, plug in a monitor, and you'll be good to go. Obviously I've already done this, but pretend that I'm not remote desktoping to it. It'll work exactly the same for you. So when your Pi is loaded and booted, you'll need to do a couple of things, both of which involve opening the terminal, which you should see in the top left corner of the Pi start bar. That is a bit small, so I'm going to make it a bit bigger. Bring that into the middle so you can see it clearly. And then you're going to type in sudo space raspi raspi -config config. Hit enter, and you should be given this menu. Now, there are several things you can do in here. You can change the user password for the Pi, which I highly recommend you do if you're going to enable a Pi to have network access, because by default all Raspberry Pis have the same password. So I recommend you change the password quickly. What we're going to do is go down into, I believe it's interfacing options. Yep, that's the one. Now P2 SSH, enable or disable remote command line access. You absolutely want to do that. So you make sure that is enabled. Would you like the server to be enabled? Yes. And then you'll see the note that says caution, default and weak passwords are a security risk. So that's why it's so important to change your password once you've enabled this. So hit enter for yes. Now the next thing you'll need to do is find your Raspberry Pi's IP address, which will be unique to your Raspberry Pi. Yes, thank you. No, go away. You're lost. Right. So what you need to do is simply type in hostname. No, you don't. You need to do something else. Hostname -I. And that will show you your Raspberry Pi's IP address. So here you see for me, it's 192.168.1.77. Now that will be different for you, but whatever it is, just remember that. So I'm now going to close my emulation, my remote desktoping, and show you how to get this to work. So it should be disconnected, cancel that, close this, close this. I'm definitely going to hide the screen that shows that I forgot how to find out the Raspberry Pi's IP address on the Raspberry Pi. So you will need two pieces of software to get this to work. First of all, you will need Putty. Putty, a free SSH and Telnet client. I seem to go on this link, I don't know what the difference is. Choose a link. Oh, it's this one. Choose a link, and you can see download Putty here. Putty is SSH and Telnet client. You can download Putty here. So click on that. Choose the version you want. Now, if you have more than 4 GB of RAM, you will have a 64-bit Windows system. So you just click on the Putty 64-bit installer there. It might well be a different version. I've already downloaded this, so I'm not going to do it again. Just get that going, install it as you normally would, and please ignore the fact that I downloaded RuneScape on here. Once you have Putty, you're also going to need, or is this a stock thing? Yeah, it's a stock thing. So just type remote desktop into your search bar on your Windows machine, and that should come up. Now, what to do at this point is you open Putty, and it will ask you for the host name of the Raspberry Pi, the host IP address. Now, mine was 192.168.1.77. As I said, that'd be different for you. Port should be 22. That's what it was in default, and that's what works for me. If it's a different number for you, it might be. If you're having any other problems, try with port 22. And the connection type here, you want SSH. So you click open there. You'll then be given this terminal screen. Log in as the username for your Raspberry Pi, which you may have changed. So whatever your username is, type it in. For me, it's still just Pi. Then it will ask you for your password. This really confused me the first time round. I typed things in and nothing was happening. And I thought it wasn't registering clicks. It turns out that when you're typing the password, the cursor doesn't move. So if you type in your password, I've typed in my password, but you can see there's no difference. But I hit enter, and you'll get that, which is telling you you are connected to the Pi. Then to access the remote desktop connection, you simply open the remote desktop that comes stock with Windows. You type in the IP address once again, you click connect, you click yes on this, and you don't read it properly. Then you type in your username and password once again, and give it a second, boom, Raspberry Pi. It could even be in a different room. As long as it has access to the same Wi-Fi network and it's plugged in, I could have left this in the bedroom and connected. And what's absolutely fantastic is that I can use it as I normally would. So I can run any scripts that I've made through this remote desktop session. And once you have it connected, really you don't have much further need for the wireless keyboard and mouse you had to go out and buy. Fortunately, I already had one on hand. but that will save you a lot of time and hassle getting the Raspberry Pi to work, especially if the input ports, the video ports for your monitor, are a little fiddly to get to, like mine are. So that's how you do the remote desktoping. Now, one of the most important things you have to do is familiarize yourself with the GPIO pins. So what I did was I made a chart that looks like this. Oh wait, hang on, that's my picture of Scooby-Doo. Here's your chart. And now for a seamless transition to a bit I forgot to record first time round. So some Pis come already with the GPIO pins installed, some they come in separately and you weld them in yourself. Either way, it's important to know which pin is which. So if you're holding the Pi long way up, the pin's on the right hand side. The top of the left hand column is pin number 1. Then over here you have pin number 2. 3, 4, 5, 6, 39 and 40. If you have a pre-soldered Raspberry Pi, it's easy to see which is which, because if you flip it over, you'll see that pin number 1 has a square piece of solder. Well, the solder's not square, but there's a square, not a circle, at its base. So that's how you know pin number 1 is this one. Back to the video we go. All we need right now are power pins, GPIO pins, and ground pins. Ground pins are very important. So, once you've memorized that, put it to the side and realize you can't remember all that, and have it on hand for reference. So once you know what you're doing there, you're going to need, for this little test project, 4 of these, 2 of these, and 2 of these, and a breadboard. Here we have just a number of wires. You can see they have a male one end and a female on the other end. I have 4 of those for this project. I have 2 LEDs, 1 LED, 2 LEDs, and 2 resistors like this, which I've cut down to shape. Now, I do believe that these are 220 ohm. If I'm wrong, I will pop something up on the screen right now. And you need a breadboard. Now, the wonderful thing about the Pi is that it can do a lot, but being such a small form factor, you need other bits to help you do that. So, let's explain this a bit further. This is a breadboard. This comes off the back and is sticky, and you can adhere it to things if you so want, but I don't. Now, each of these rows of 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, they're connected by a single metal clip in the base. As long as you plug something into a hole, it will connect with any other hole in that row of 5, and it doesn't matter what. What we're going to do is we're going to start putting some pins in. So I need to start off a ground pin. So I happen to know that pin number, physical pin number 6, which is this one, is a ground pin. So I'm going to pop my wire onto there. And just so I know what I'm doing, is I'm going to match it up with hole number, that's upside down, hole number 6 over there. Make sure that's fully in. Then we are going to need a GPIO pin, which is physical pin number 12, which is BCM pin 18. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And I'm going to do the same thing and put the other end of this in hole number 12. We'll need another ground pin, which is physical pin 14. So I'm going to pop that in there and pop this in hole 14. I'm sorry for the lighting today, it's really miserable weather. Another GPIO pin, which I'm going to put on 16, 18? I don't know. Sorry about that, I got my wires crossed. So what I've done is I have reconfigured the way I have connected the Pi and the breadboard. You can see that on the breadboard now it matches the layout of the pins on the Raspberry Pi, so I know better what I'm doing. Now, to get these components installed, start off by taking a resistor. Now, the current is going to flow out of the GPIO pins, through any components you have, and back into the Pi through the ground pins. So it's very important you get your cables the right way round, or you might damage your Raspberry Pi, which would not be beneficial to anyone. So first of all, with the way that I have this set up, is I'm going to take a resistor, plug one leg of it into the rail with the yellow cable, which is connected to my GPIO pin, physical pin 12, which is BCM pin 18. And the other end of it, you'll see, is in a rail that isn't connected to anything else. Now, LEDs have legs of differing lengths. You'll see that this bottom leg here is a bit longer than the top one there. The longer leg is the positive end of the diode, and you have to get that the right way around. So put the positive end of the leg in the rail with the output end of the resistor, and put the negative leg in the rail with the ground pin, like so. And essentially I'm going to repeat the process with the other two. So the GPIO pin for these two is the red cable, so I'm going to put a leg of the resistor into a rail with the red cable, if my hands will work for me. Now you'll see that the output leg is not connected to anything there, only just, but that will do. Then the same again, you take the long leg of the LED, put that in the same rail, and put the negative leg in with the green cable for me, which is a ground pin. And that's it. That's how you do the lighting segment of this. That's we're halfway through. Let's crack on, shall we? Your video's too long. Who are you? Your video's too long. Okay, so what should I do? Make it a two-parter. You know that's papier-mâché, right? That won't stop you breathing gases. How are you doing that? Doing what? Okay. Part 2 then, I guess.